where you're getting, all these, reasonable size studies or repeated studies over and over and over again, and meta-analysis on this topic, from even people outside the field on the topic. That's encouraging to see more widespread acceptance for like a phenotype.
But I just can't believe how things are changing day to day with these different models that are coming out, and you just have to follow them all and use them all as an advisory board to see who's right and who's wrong.
Are you talking about? Yeah.
I'm talking about, what do you want to say, LLMs, AI, whatever.
Yeah. Well, you can also have an advisory board within the same AI system. So the multi-agents, which is what Grok does, and that does actually show some benefit. And I don't know why other people haven't copied that model yet. It's very reasonable to copy that, So like,
but I mean, you can do that with all of them, right?
Yeah. There's no reason why they couldn't. I don't know why they don't. So for example, if you ask like ChatGPT a question and it's using a single agent model, which I believe it's the case, it'll occasionally give you the wrong answer. But if you ask it to check that answer, it will say, yes, you're right, that's wrong. Well, there's no reason why it can't check that answer itself. And that's what a multi-agent model does, is essentially having like a committee of agents that will come and look for different answers, and then they'll hash out a checks and balance between each other. So it's sort of like they're going to automatically fact check each other. They're going to automatically look for consensus or discrepancies. And then they're not going to do it by a vote. They're actually going to look for who had the best logic. So for example, a minority answer could still be the right answer according to the committee because it has the best logic. And so it's not by vote, which is critical. It's by rationale. And that model does test the highest, with certain metrics. Like there's something called the last human test, which is supposed to be all the hardest test questions in the world on the hardest subjects. So these are going to be like extremely obscure. And I think the highest scoring human could score like 2 to 3% or something like that. And the multi-level agent model scored something like, it was like a 50%. And it was like we've never had a human score more than a few. No humans ever scored double digits ever. And the AI models, I think ChatGPT scored like 10 or 12%, but the multi-agent model actually like vastly excelled at getting the right answers on these systems. So, and it's not that any AI model probably could do the multi-agent model. They just need to like do the work. So.
I was putting a post in here, Joshua. Hey, all, welcome. Ask your questions here, or Pete will have to make up his own.
Yep.
YouTube rejected your comment. This usually means they think it's spam.
Really? Okay.
All right.
Wow.
There we go. That's how we're rolling.
Yep. I'll post it to my social media. I always like doing that. There's always a few people that jump in from my group. Let's see here.
How are you sharing it where we're coming up live on Facebook, Joshua? That is so cool.
This is a good question. I took some time when we were in here one day to just connect my social media account to it. You can kind of do it. There's some buttons on here that you can connect to it. And it just tethered my social media account. There is some little glitch though. When I share it for my social media, I'm banned from the chat for some reason. So I'm no longer allowed to add I don't know why that is, but it's a little bit of a glitch. So I can either share it to my social media or I don't know, or I can, I wonder if there's a way to like disconnect it after the fact so I can still chat, but once it's shared, it doesn't let me chat anymore. So I can't answer questions over on the side like I do sometimes. I like to add in citations when Jay joins us because, but I won't be able to do that if I share it to my Facebook feed, just some glitch. So that's the one thing that makes me hesitate, because if Jay jumps in, I like the dynamic of me kind of funneling, citations about what he's talking about, because I've worked with him long enough that I generally know what he's referencing. I can go find it real quick. So
I just dumped a whole bunch of stuff, and as we're waiting for our lovely viewers and listeners to come in, whole bunch of stuff that just came up that I said, hey, all the stuff that came up during the week, what should we talk about? Bam, I put it in there. Anything piques your interest, Joshua?
This is a big block of text with lots of good stuff.
It is. That's what it is.
Healthy worry and the brain that's been hijacked by dread. So there's a textbook on this called How Emotions Are Made by How Emotions Are Made by Lisa Barrett. And it actually goes over how emotions are just constructs. They're not templates. They're not universal. They're 100% constructs. So people have a somatosensory experience, and with the context of the immediate environment plus the context of the historical experiences of that same sensation, they attribute a value and a definition to it, which is 100% personal. It's not something that is universal at all. So anxiety, depression, anger, happiness, those things are all personal. There's nothing common between people in them. We project that there's commonalities, but there's not. And this emotion researcher actually helped us work through that these are actually just constructs. And the reason why that's useful is because anxiety is just energy. And so we have to ask ourselves the question, is there energy in the system because there's something in a failure mode? Or is there energy in the system because your body's trying to give you energy for something that you are not relating properly to? So as a therapist, I have scope of practice to actually triage that. And that's quite useful, because sometimes I'll look at a person and say, you have a lot of anxiety, but you're living with somebody who's physically abusive. What do you think this anxiety might be for? What do you think this, let me rephrase that. What do you think this energy might be for? And the answer is to run, to get out. So like your body's giving you energy to do something, you should use it. So there are cases where people who are not prone to anxiety experience something that they choose to call anxiety, but they just need to call it energy, and they just need to spend it. And they need to have a reduction in what we call cognitive dissonance between what the energy is for and the fact that they have it. They have to resolve that incongruence. They need to match the two up and say, I have this problem and I have this energy that's showing up for this problem. They go together. I'm going to do something with that energy. And that sometimes comes up when you're doing brain mapping. So you have to do what's called a biopsychosocial interview with the individual while you're doing a brain map, because you want to be able to tell what's a failure mode and what is an adaptive or maladaptive mechanism.
So when you're sleeping and you wake up with like a panic attack, I thought sleep was to help you process things.
Yeah.
Does that mean you wake up and you can't process it? Well, like, what's going on?
So panic attacks are actually fascinating. So according to the AEPB, we have an efficacy rating of 5 out of 5 for panic attacks. And there's a reason why we have so much success with panic attacks. Panic attacks are actually two comorbid dysfunctions. Panic attacks are excessive energy through either some unspent energy or failure mode, plus instabilities. And what that means is that you have more than one target that you can go after in neurofeedback to resolve the panic attack. This is what I call a target-rich problem. Okay? And so it's hard to fail at training panic disorders because you only have to improve. You have multiple things you can improve in order to achieve resolution of the panic disorder, because it's got multiple pillars holding it up, and you only have to knock one of them down. Does that make sense? And so,
it does.
So panic is inherently a failure mode that's related specifically to instabilities and excess energy, or you might call it anxiety. But you could improve either to get resolution. If you want to be very holistic, you would try to improve both, but you don't have to improve both to get resolution.
That's a great question, Pete.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Who is this?
Please come in.
Howdy.
Jay Gunkelman, you just walked in on panic attacks, and I said, when you're sleeping, aren't you supposed to be processing things in your mind? And if you wake up in the middle of the night of a panic attack, that means you couldn't process it.
Well, there are such things as night terror. These are parasomnias, and there's actually EEG correlates of such. But if you're waking up in a panic, it's also possible that it's a discharge, an electrical discharge. In the literature, anxiety has a 12% incidence of epileptiform activity that you can find. 12% doesn't sound like, well, that's nothing, but 3% is the background population. So 12% is a 400% increase above the background. 400%. It's a big. That makes it sound real big now. 12% is sound little. But anxiety, you could have a discharge that's causing it, but usually it's tuning and what's going on in affect regulation and stuff. But if you have panic, the percentage of epileptiform discharge goes up to 30%. So panic, 30% isn't enough odds to get me to go to Vegas and expect to come home with money, but it's still enough for me to look over my shoulder to make sure it's not coming, So if panic is an issue, looking at the EEG is well advised. You may have the rare discharge, but you may not. Your panic may simply because of affect regulation and the speed of your background rhythm and so forth, but all of that's assessed on an individual basis. The panic is like a DSM category sort of a thing. Well, it's a whole bunch of different things. This is our major.
I would say that
our major sponsor depends.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Jeez.
Well played, sir.
I do think that the instabilities have sort of slightly different symptom profiles. And so like in a biopsychosocial interview, you can kind of sort of guess which one they're going to be. Not that you would guess, but that they're going to present with more autonomic dysregulation in more you'll see them waking up, moving, and waking up dysregulated, sweating, blood pressure issues, that kind of thing.
Well, one of the nice things about SMR is that it does cut down on red nucleus based movement at night issues. And if you've got myoclonic jerks or behavioral REM is really a bad prognostic symptom. Behavioral REM precedes Parkinsonism as an example. So if you're behaviorally acting out your dreams, the red nucleus is involved, and the red nucleus in Parkinsonism is hypertrophied. It's an excessively sized piece of the brain. So it's been allowing you to have excessive tension in the background, and it's developed itself, like any like any protein. It's developed itself into a big hunkin' red nucleus.
Carl.
No. Jay, you got a talk coming up in a couple of days, don't you?
Friday.
Do I ever stop? So Friday I have a free talk at the School of Neurotherapy. This is about kinds of beta, and beta ranges from the SMR frequency range on up through to gamma frequencies. So it's a broad bunch of things that are under the rubric of beta, but I'll be discussing those. Benzodiazepine beta. I'll show some 35 hertz beta. That's spindling excess beta. That's F3 beta, which is F1 is more beta than you would want to have, but it's not a big spindle thing. If you have spindling excess beta, that's F2. But if it's spindling excess way fast beta, that's F3. If you're spindling over 30 hertz, you're going to be in F3. So, most of the beta spindles that you see are in the lower to mid 20s, sometimes the upper 20s, but above 30 is a different animal entirely. It's glutamate. It's glutamate driven, as opposed to norepinephrine driven.
And that's F3.
Yeah.
Okay.
And F3 is obviously is glutamate driven. What would you use to treat it? Well, maybe a glutamate modulator like Lamictal, and you can consider other anticonvulsants like gabapentin, but the F3 is a bit fast for just expecting norepinephrine fixes like clonidine or guanfacine to touch it.
Okay.
It's a bit severe for that.
Okay.
We talked about panic attacks and the benzos. Which is, pick your poison. What's worse, the withdrawals or dealing with the panic attacks?
Well,
Withdrawal.
if you're on benzodiazepines, there's a lot of different kinds. Some are shorter acting and some are longer acting. Some of them, their half-life goes up to 60 days. Half-life.
Whoa. Why?
Yeah, 16 to 60. You know, but
why would you want that? Questions all of a sudden, Jay.
that particular benzo doesn't give you the high of Valium,
okay,
but it stays with you.
Okay.
But the thing is, if you're on a benzodiazepine, your brain is responding to that, and it's always a push and pull, and it's a neuroplastic dance that's doing. If it's being pushed with a benzodiazepine, it's going to make more GABA receptors. And if you have more GABA receptors, it's harder to calm yourself down. So the medication is creating a counterintuitive increase in your arousal level. You take it to wind down and chill out, and if you only took it for a few days, it might be reasonably good at having done that. But the thing is, if you stay on it and you make more and more and more GABA receptors, you're going to end up having a problem, and withdrawal hyperexcitability is expected. On Klonopin, if you read the PDR, not a bad place to start. It suggests that if you take it for more than 4 weeks, you have to be medically managed for your withdrawal. It's got a very long half-life, and you're going to be really hooked on it by the end of 4 weeks. So if you did it cold turkey stop, you'd probably have a high likelihood of a seizure or hyperexcitability side effect that was.
And Klonopin has a long half-life as well.
A long half-life.
Okay. So I think that they actually prefer longer half-life in order to somewhat avoid withdrawal effects. So the shorter acting benzodiazepines are more associated with things like rebound anxiety. So like Xanax is much more likely to have it. And in fact, when there's
more of a high, more likely to be used addictively as a high.
Yeah, and there's a general principle: the more quick a drug acts, the more addictive potential. And that's why things like things you inhale, like cigarettes, part of why they're so addictive. But the last thing is, there's doctors that have protocols for withdrawing people from benzodiazepines slowly over time, tapering them, and they prefer to use longer acting benzodiazepines for that. So just wanted the longer acting is not necessarily the bad part. Go ahead.
And still stepping down and down and down.
Yeah.
Yes. But withdrawal from them is difficult if it's not managed well. People have seizures in withdrawal from benzodiazepines. And
long before I knew Jay, I discovered on my own that SMR training was beneficial for people going through benzo withdrawal, because they would tell me that it helped 10-20%, which to them was huge, because there wasn't a lot of things that took the edge off by 20%. And that was something I just stumbled onto. I didn't know that SMR was GABAergic back then. That was something that Jay taught me later on. So, but it was enough noticeable that those people, if something helps with 20% of the agitation, they'll tell you, because there's not a lot that helps with 20%.
Wow. That's great to hear, though, that it helped them that much.
Just a heads up for everybody that's out there. I can't put comments in the box here. It thinks it's spam, and I don't see anybody else putting any questions in here. So I don't know if StreamYard got the hex on them or what, but Pete at NeuroNoodle.com, if somebody wants to email me a question.
Block mine as well.
Yeah, it's streaming. I'm on I have the YouTube open. One thing about the benzos is I think it was Sturman, but maybe somebody after him determined that SMR, well, we know that it works on the function of GABA receptors in the thalamus. And so you mentioned glutamate, Jay, particularly for the beta spindles over 30 hertz. So I'm wondering if that could be part of why SMR, I think, has been known to help people with high beta like that, is that you're improving the GABA function, which is the glutamate is metabolized to GABA and vice versa. They like balance each other. And so I'm wondering if the SMR balances through the GABA function.
They're supposed to balance each other. They spin off high and low sometimes, you know. So, but the glutamate spindle is something that generally responds to the anticonvulsants that are glutamate targeted, and Lamictal is probably the best example of that. Reduces the release of it, I guess. Lamictal is a glutamate modulator. That's its class. Okay. That's how it's you know, what's the medical effect of this drug? Well, Lamictal is a glutamate modulator, and the glutamate beta buzz up in the 30s is not uncommon in the seizure focus. If you look at a seizure, they used to always look for the focus. Now they look at the network as well, but you can find hubs that are hot, and the hot hub looks like a focus.
And it does, just so we know, that lamotrigine or Lamictal, it does in fact inhibit glutamate release. I wanted to say, but I just Googled that. But also, Jay, on the focus of seizures being that fast beta, was it on this podcast? I think I heard someone say that we actually think slow waves are sort of the cause of seizures ultimately, or was that something I came across elsewhere?
You're going to end up seeing cross-frequency coupling. In a seizure focus, you usually have persistent gamma, not the healthy gamma that chirps on and off nested in theta or alpha, but a pathological gamma that's on consistently, like a thalamicortical dysrhythmia gamma is on persistently. So that's persistent gamma is a bad biomarker to have. It's either a thalamicortical dysrhythmia or it's a particular pathology. The hippocampal area, for instance, in Alzheimer's case, will have persistent gamma as a pathology. And Parkinsonism, the network, it's a known. In fact, Parkinsonism was the first identified thalamicortical dysrhythmia.
And did you say it's coupled to a slower frequency? Is that I'm
fast and slower coupled?
Okay.
And ultimately, all of the EEG is nested in infralow frequency content, the slow cortical potentials. If the slow cortical potentials drift electronegative, the cortex is active and on. If it drifts electropositive, it turns it off or modulates it. It's like a rheostat. It's not an on-off switch, but you modulate more on, less on. And the slow cortical potential training in Germany was focused on CZ because they were interested in epilepsy, and then on brain-computer interface and slow cortical potential control, mu, turning on and off mu. There's some biological things that they used for brain-computer interface, which is quite an effective technique. The currently brain-computer interface with MEG is being done, and they do neurofeedback with the MEG for pain. It's been shown to be quite effective. The research by Wang. Anyway,
got a question for you.
They did MEG feedback of the insula to modulate pain. And you can target it. MEG can target a deep source like that really well without any question. They see X, Y, and Z. EG, we see radial current source. And so we're not as good at seeing deeper things. We can kind of see the insula as a far field phase reversal with EEG, but MEG goes right there. They see it right where it is. There's no difficulty seeing it with MEG. They go to XYZ, they can see what's going on there.
Debbie Downer, you remember that Saturday Night Live skit? Jay, what's going on in Debbie Downer's brain versus somebody that is like just truly excited? You know, like when Debbie Downer speaks, you're wah, wah, wah.
Well, there are people that are depressed, and you know, people are interpersonally resonant, and people that are depressed, if you join in with their energy, are going to be a bit of a downer for you. If you're not stable yourself, you're able to be influenced by the field surrounding you really easily, and you should watch who you hang with, unless you're really well self-assured, and then it doesn't matter what's going on around you, you're gonna be fine, you know. So
bad vibes.
Yeah, you know, there's also people that have a very bad vibe associated with them, and if you check their acupuncture points instead of being electronegative hotspots, they're not. We refused service to one person in our lab at North Dakota when we did our initial testing. I found his field was a reverse or negative. I mean, he was a energy black hole, and I didn't want him anywhere in our lab. And he was already a patient at the state hospital. He was being cared for elsewhere. But I didn't want him anywhere near anything we had.
How interesting. Jay, when you say that they're depressed, I think that often can correlate with like a phenotype, like a frontal slow wave phenotype, or
frontal alpha hypercoherence is affect regulation. That's not depression. And if you have frontal alpha that's skewed to the left, you're sad and your approach avoidance is not approach. If you have alpha skewed to the right, you're more agitated depression and you have more approach than avoidance. And if you have it at the midline, it may be anterior cingulate, the affective division of the anterior cingulate, which can be motivation initiation. So if you're get up and go, got up and left, and that's what your depression is, it might be cingulate driving it. When you see the alpha up front, you still don't know the source. You have to look. A lot of people assume frontal alpha is just a field effect of the projection of alpha to the back of the head, and it's being picked up as the synchronous alpha up front. That's hypercoherent. The hypercoherence of alpha up front is instantaneous coherence. Some people would dismiss it entirely. They only look at lagged coherence. But it could be a field effect, in which case it would be instantaneous coherence. But it can also be a local source. And if you find very high coherence above 0.8 raw value, you can go from 0 to 1. 1 is identical, 0, there's nothing at all the same at all. They're totally unsimilar. And you should hover between about 0.5 and about 0.1 for normal connectivity. But if you're above 0.8, you're so high in coherence, you better look to make sure it's not a field effect. Find me the source. Do a S. Loretta of the source of it, and show me that anterior cingulate affective division rostral or subgenual source that's giving you all this frontal alpha. And if it's there, it's there. And that's your source of the super high coherence. But when you see coherence that's that high, you know, show me for sure that it's not a field effect, because it's incredible to get that close to a 1, you know. When everything would be absolutely identical. you can see occasionally in a very, very bad pathology, and I've seen this posteriorly, where alpha was super high in coherence and extremely high in power. And what it was is a porencephalic cyst. The woman was missing a fifth of her brain. And the spot that had no brain tissue volumetrically conducted gigantic alpha to the surface, but it was all super in phase because it was all field effect off the thalamus.
Wow.
But it was a porencephalic cyst. She was a nursing student at UC San Francisco and getting her degree in nursing. And they came through the lab for exposure to EEG and a bit of their neuroscience rounds. And the doctor had us do a visual field challenge, and she was missing a quadrant. And when you're missing a visual quadrant, you know that there's something seriously wrong neurologically, and it's time to have more study. And the back then a CT scan, there wasn't MRI at the time. A CT scan showed the large area fluid filled, but with no brain tissue. And but she wasn't lacking in intellect. Yeah, I mean, you don't get to be a nursing student being a dullard, you must doubt your judgment by not going in to try to get your MD. That'd be the only question. If you make it through nursing, you got to ask yourself, why the hell did I just become a doctor? You're so subordinate in what you can do. But then I've lived my whole life as a technologist under doctors co-assigned for anything I did, so I'm used to it.
Yeah.
Jay, on the person that's the Debbie Downer, I did a little digging on that in past days or years, and what they found is there's suggestions related to frontal midline theta, which increases error monitoring, so they're more prone to notice mistakes, and negative reinforcement. So
there's a difference between theta frontally and frontal midline theta. Brief bursts of theta is frontal midline theta. If you have theta at the anterior cingulate, you have perseverative problem at the anterior cingulate. It's a cingulate failure mode, but it's not in brief bursts. It's tonic.
Yes, so Debbie Downer is probably the tonic, always on kind of theta, if she had to be one of them.
Yeah, well, your cingulate can be alpha, which is the most common variety of cingulate failure, or it can be slow, and that's if you have an alpha variant slower than 10 hertz, you have an 85% probability of having a positive response to an SSRI. Show me another study that shows an 85% positive response to an SSRI. I'll eat my hat. I've got a tricorn just out of reach right up here, Leslie Pritchett and Roy John did a cluster analysis of OCD. Now, OCD's got one kind in the DSM, so you're telling the cluster to find two kinds, and it found an alpha and a slow kind. Now, if you had a cluster analysis find two kinds, it's going to find two kinds. The question isn't, does it find two kinds? Because it freaking will. You tell it to, it will. That's what it does. It's going to find two kinds. Whether it's a meaningful differentiation is really the question. And the alpha variety, 85% positive response to an SSRI. The slow variety, 15% response. And you get a 35% response to a placebo. So a 15% responding group is a non-responder group,
Fair enough.
Anyway, those were the two that they found, but they were using the Roy John NX link is now the equivalent of the database, which stopped at 25 hertz. So the beta spindle variety, they only said to find two kinds, and it found the theta and alpha variety, or slow and alpha. It's not all theta frequency. Some delta theta mix, but it's slow rhythm. And we see beta spindles at the anterior cingulate as another failure mode. And it's a real mistake if you give an SSRI to a beta spindle person. That's a mistake. It's a contraindication to an SSRI to have beta spindles.
Jay, real quick before we get to radar, is there a birthday we got to mention? I think.
Today is Renita's birthday, but
happy birthday, Renita!
Happy birthday.
Okay,
good stuff.
Want to get that out there. And here's your present, Renita. Radar wants to know, why are we supposed to be reluctant to train down low or mid beta, even if it's very high? Don't spend it all in one place.
So there are some beta frequencies that are compensatory or functional beta frequencies, and then there's some that are hyperexcitability frequencies. And the hyperexcitability frequencies are usually ones that you want to suppress. They're up in the 20s. But the ones in the teens can be functional. And as an example, if you do a CPT task and you're supposed to hit the button with your finger, you're going to see a symbol tell you to hit the button. And about 500 milliseconds after you see the symbol, the spot that regulates this finger is going to light up with about 17 hertz beta. And that's functional beta. That's not there at rest. It's there for a purpose. It's event-related beta. And that event-related beta lights up when you perceive the need to hit the button. It's not when you hit the button. It's when you see that the symbol that you're looking at says go as opposed to no go. And that's 500 milliseconds. It takes you 500 milliseconds to differentiate a 1 from a 2. So that 500 millisecond latency from the stimulus until the beta starts. But you don't hit the button yet. There's a reaction time from the time you recognize it says hit the button to the time that you can react. There's a normal reaction time. Usually around 120 milliseconds is a reasonable human reaction time. So the normal person hit the button at about 620 milliseconds after the flash of the go told them to hit the button. An ADD person's beta synchronizes later, and their gamma doesn't synchronize as well. Gamma in a normal person, you see big bursts of gamma nested and theta all the way across the second that you're looking at after the response or after the stimulus. It's normal to have nested gamma in the functional cortex, frontally in motor areas. If you look, that's where you see gamma and gamma 2 and ripples nested in the theta wave. Every time the theta wave goes electronegative, you see all that fast activity happen. It goes electropositive, it's off. So it's on and off and on and off with each theta wave. So it's nested. All of the EEGs nested in for slow. Theta nests gamma and higher frequencies, but this 15 to 18 hertz range is the functional beta range. Like SMR is the functional low frequencies of beta range. That's, it's got its own specific function. So from 12 to about 18, you've got to wonder whether it should be suppressed, because it might be an event-related important thing to have. There are some people that have spindling beta at 18 to 22, and that beta can be suppressed. It's not an event-related thing. It's a persistent, ongoing spindle, and it's one of the Fs. The Fs were for Fred Gibbs. Gibbs and Gibbs, Fred and Erna, met in Lennox's lab in the early 1930s, right when they translated Berger from the German. And they discovered that you could see epilepsy with the EEG, including beta spindles as one of the things that they saw. So they were one of the first to really report this beta stuff. And it was out of Lennox's lab. And it was all associated with epilepsy. Lennox and Gastaut. Gastaut is in France, Lennox is in Harvard. They're all looking at the same phenomenon. But Gibbs and Gibbs saw the beta, and they saw 3 different kinds, and probably Erna would have called it F1, F2, and F3. I don't think Fred was that egocentric myself, but they were a great couple. They were a wonderful pair, and both just as sharp as can be, and sharp into old age, still quite sharp.
And for everybody that's tuning in, I put the schedule up for next month so everybody can see when the chats are, so you don't have to guess when things are happening. It's up there. And I found that you can go in there and you can ask questions in there, and they'll be in there ready and waiting for when we start the show. So if anybody has a inkling to do that, you could do that. And then Tony, so sorry about last week, Anthony. I left you out in the lobby. I'm so sorry.
No, everything's good. I actually got to go to a Myers-Briggs seminar, etc., at UF, a presentation, because I think her name was Isabella Myers-Briggs, was a psychology professor at UF, and the official Myers-Briggs Center is here in our town that she founded after she left UF. And of course, I brought up an EEG researcher who does research out of UCLA, Dario Nardi, on Myers-Briggs and EEG activation. And so that was kind of interesting to meet with people. And it's a little bit of a controversial test, but it's fun, and I think there's maybe seeds of truth in there. So.
Does that work, Jay?
Neuropsychology testing?
You did that. You did testing for executives.
Neuropsych testing does on paper and pencil testing to try to figure out what's going on in the brain. And I think looking at the EEG is a real good way to look at what's going on in the brain. The correlation between the two gives you, confidence in the validity of your description that you've come up with paper and pencil testing when you actually see the area that you think isn't working right, not working right. And the thing is, if you know the diagnosis, you might guess what neural network is not working right. That's a where. But it's not going to tell you how it's not working right. Which is a what. So OCD, you know where, but you don't know what the hell you're going to see. It's going to be theta, it could be alpha, it could be beta. Could be a cross-frequency coupling between slowed alpha and gamma, the dysrhythmia. So you can have a whole bunch of different things, all driving the same behavior. It's a lack of normal function in a spot, but what kind of divergent function is going on is another question. So the DSM will point you sort of to the spot, but it won't tell you what's going on there. And you have to know what's going on there to know what kind of neurochemistry is going on there and kind of how to intervene with meds. And neurofeedback, it gives you good guidance as well, obviously. You're feeding back EEG to train, self-regulation of it.
Lie detector. Can neurofeedback be better than a lie detector, Jay? Because it's a galvanic response, isn't it? Like a next step.
The answer to this is the career of Peter Rosenfeld, Dr. Peter Rosenfeld, who was in neurofeedback world historically, but he got into event-related potentials, ERP, and the ability to do the lie detection. The end of his career was largely tied into the intelligence network for determining truth or falsehood from major political figures and things. I mean, if you say you've never been somewhere and you show somebody a picture of it, you can tell whether they recognize it from a memory or whether this is a new perception.
Wow.
No, I've never done that. I've never been there. I don't know that person. my brain recognizes, oh shit, I'm toast. They recognize that I recognize, So,
I did have a mentor who I won't name who did have a military contract teaching the military how to do this, but I'll leave that unnamed.
Oh wait, what? Oh, hold on. You don't have to name the name, but what was the process?
I'm not gonna name the name.
Come on.
But ERP, not EG, is the way to test that kind of thing. You're looking for the response to a question or a stimulus of some sort. And event-related potentials, ERP, is a great way to look at that. And EG, not so much. You can look at the average background activity and kind of tell whether they're prone to pathology or something, but not whether they were truth or false on a given question. You can be a psychopath and answer truthfully.
Anthony, I got one for you. What is the Gen Z stare, and why is it such a thing?
Oh man, I have complained about this myself. We could be funny, but I'm worried about what it means. I think it may mean that they're all, well, one, it could be mind blanking because they don't sleep. That's the first thing that comes in my head.
Fair.
But so many times, and I'll let you guys respond with your own funny story. So many times I will be in customer service somewhere, and I swear after COVID and after, because I literally read an article that said that COVID sped up baby boomers retiring. And so Gen Z, for one, they finally became the dominant generation in entry-level jobs. And so that was the point at which everything flipped to when you're dealing with customer service, it's them. And I swear they will look into space. I've seen people get irate. They don't care. I've seen people talk to them like a human. They don't care. So that's my take, is they're either dissociated or they're just exhausted. Maybe cannabis. Because I think
maybe it's marijuana.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
But I mean, is that like when a dog does that and they're like, or is it something else? I'm dead serious now.
When I read about it, I think it's blanking. I'll let Jay, if he has a vacant expression a Gen Zer gives in response to a question.
I'm in a geezer generation, so
yeah.
I'm in the early wave of the boomer generation, and I never paid attention to all the subsets of the generations that they've come up with, because they're all younger to me. So differentiating them into groups I never tracked what's one group versus another at all. They're all younger than me. So.
But Josh, was that a social thing? Like they don't know because they've been staring at their phones so long? Like what's going on there? Because I mean, it's like
it's purely speculative, but you might come up with some existential concerns on this one. So you could. Well, it's purely opinion though. But they don't have as much purpose and meaning. They're not having as many intimate connections. They're not dating as much. Yeah. They're not on track to having as many kids. They're just more disconnected, and you have more existential, concerns, just as a general rule. And so I think that stare reflects the lack of connection and the lack of being grounded in real life.
They'll never own a house. They're dissatisfied with their. I had a Gen Z actually tell me the other day, we were talking about, Iran. I don't know. He's like, honestly, he's like, I grew up when I was born, there was a housing crisis and then COVID and so many different, 9/11. I think he was very young. So he's like, it's all the same to me. So, but I do think, and I'll read whoever's, it's the
El Charterino.
What is that? But wasn't No Child Left Behind the testing that they do? But anyway, no. So there's a wiki of this. I just Googled it, and there's a picture of a guy. He's just got the flattest expression. And here's the thing: there's a University of Kansas researcher that says that empathy has been decreasing for 50 years.
Oh yeah.
Who has trouble with emotional control and relating to others' emotions is people who don't sleep. I mean, think about when you're the most burnt out. I think there's a relation, and we know they're not sleeping. Jay has told us for years. There was a study that I just was in the news a week ago that they're getting 1 full day less sleep per week, which is actually maybe even less than what we thought they were losing. But yeah, I think it's whatever else it is, political, cultural, social. I think that the biological stuff, the environment cannot, and maybe the phones and et cetera, cannot be helping. I just don't think it could.
Well,
Yeah.
missing sleep makes you look inattentive because you spend your time in stage 1 drowsing when your eyes are open. Your eyes are open, but nobody's home. There's a point as your eyes are open that you have widespread alpha. And just before the widespread alpha, you were actually dozed a little bit. All your rhythmicity stopped briefly, and you came back to that alpha, the resurgent burst of alpha. That dropout is when the reticular nucleus of the thalamus stops making acetylcholine, and you're not going to encode a memory unless the thalamus has actually got something going. So for that moment, you actually dropped out, and you were gone. When you come back with all that alpha, you're not as vigilant because it's all up front as well. It comes back. It's in the back of your head when you're wide awake, but if you doze off and come back, the resurgent alpha is diffuse and it's up front. And you're not as vigilant then. So if a teacher is looking at you, that dip down and the coming back to the alpha, you're still looking with your eyes are open. You've been looking like you've been attending, but if she asks a question, good luck. There was nobody home for a moment, and then when you came back, you weren't very vigilant. Now, what was the topic? You were people that get drowsy. Stage 1 drowsiness has alpha dropout. That's the B1 vigilance stage with the eyes closed. You can have alpha dropout with the eyes open, and again, it's like highway hypnosis. You just went 10 exits and you found your exit 20, and how the hell did I get at exit 20? Last I remember was 5. You were in a state that can respond, but you're not really encoding. Something has to catch your salience attentional network in order to fire you back up. And once you're fired back up, you have to alert and then orient and then respond. So your reaction time's not good, but you're still in your lane. You didn't drive into the ditch, or this is California. You don't have a ditch. You got concrete. You didn't hit a concrete barrier. So.
Jay, a paper came out in the last year or so from University of Liège, and I pulled it up, but they think mind blanking is associated with glymphatic function. So specifically, one thing that they've known is there's lots of delta, which is associated with sleep. And there was a previous study on long-range truckers, and it said parts of their brain would go to sleep as reflected by the delta activity there, the slow wave activity, and they called them microsleeps. But they found out this newer study is arguing that's happening anytime somebody's mind blanking. And further, what's going on is they've linked it to glymphatic function, which is the protein waste clearance system, the pump of your brain. So these people, you could argue, they're kind of asleep in some sense, Pete, and they're also, I think they found that there is memory rehearsal going on in the somatosensory area. So there's like motor learning, which is an NREM sleep phenomenon. So yeah, I think the Gen Z Stare, maybe half of them are asleep while they're waking with you.
I think the clock syndrome is what a neurologist called it once.
What's that? I'm not familiar.
The clock syndrome. I haven't been able to find it, but when I was in the military, one of the neurologists called it a clock syndrome, which is where you're essentially getting micro states of sleep throughout the day, and it can prevent you from dying of sleep deprivation when you normally should. It's a military thing. The military tracks it because they're interested in people who are super sleepers. If you can live on 2 hours of sleep a day, the military wants to know about that.
Yeah,
so, they're interested in that. They're curious about people who can survive on 2 hours of sleep consistently forever.
But before you talk to these kids, I mean, do you just got to go? I'm serious. Like if somebody's freaking out, to calm them down, you slap them in the face. I've been told. But these people that are sleeping, I mean, do you have to?
So to really answer your question, in the counseling relationship, I'll actually put a rope between them and I'll hold onto their end and I'll pull on it. So there's actually some physical connection between us. There's tension between us. They actually feel the tension between us, that I'm actually physically like interacting with them.
Incredible.
So they can't really tune out when you're kind of like engaging in kind of waxing and waning pressure against them.
You're forcing them.
Is that like my wife with her foot in my butt?
That would do it. So,
There's a big difference in our language is pretty bad. Our language is our language. Our language sucks. Face it. We're not great at describing eternal states. There's a difference between arousal level and vigilance.
Okay.
Vigilance is your ability to interact with the outside world in a efficient, productive way. And your arousal level is how jacked up you are. You can be efficiently interacting with the outside world with a low level of arousal, but your performance is not going to be great. There's an arousal performance continuum, but if your arousal is too high, you can't perform either. So that you have to look at the vigilance level and not just the arousal level. We actually published a paper, Martijn Arns, Werner Vanderberg, and myself, asking for more people theorizing about EEG stuff because theories can be tested and they drive new understandings. And we tried to integrate the phenotype model with the vigilance model. And we created an arousal level axis that interacted with the vigilance axis. And we found that to be a fairly useful model. And Werner Vanderberg and Martijn and I actually had a workshop scheduled, and the night before we came up with this integration after a very nice dinner, some good wine at dinner, and then they went out drinking beer to figure out whether Belgian beer or Flemish beer was exactly what beer was the best. And about 3 a.m. We finished that and went back to the hotel. The next morning, Martijn Arns was transcribing from the bar napkin to the blackboard, well, the whiteboard, the model. So they call it the integrated model. I call it the bar napkin model. But it's it takes quite a bit of discussion to integrate whole ways of thinking when our language is so bad at describing the states. The vigilance and arousal kind of they interact, but when you're talking about one, you're actually talking about the other. And so if I talked this badly when I was young, they would have washed my mouth out with soap. So
I got a term for you all, since nobody's asking any questions here. AI brain. I don't know what you want to call it, but I remember this back when the internet first came out. I would turn on the computer and then, oh my God, 10 hours just went by. And with AI, that's the same thing. I'm working on something. I'm like, the entire day is gone. Like what? I am so wrapped up in using this and trying to keep up because it's constantly changing, hourly. Is that what it is? AI brain? What's going on? Why am I zoning out?
You're experiencing the nonlinearity of time.
Yeah. Well, there's different complaints about that. Like people will use AI in a way that creates too many shortcuts and their level of effort and engagement goes down, but there's no evidence of that because they're producing the same amount. But what you see is a less sophisticated person on the other side of that. And then other cases, you'll see them do more and challenge themselves more and expect more of themselves. And then so there's actually a study on high school students that showed that AI made them duller and dumber. And then there's a study on graduate students that showed that AI made them sharper and brighter and more proficient and more articulate. And so it just depends on how you're using it. The context of what is your relationship to this tool? Are you using it to enable you, or are you using it to empower you? And
I like that.
So your level of engagement and effort is going to predict what it's going to be to you.
I don't know. It's like blink. 8 hours gone. But it's productive time. A lot of stuff is happening.
I have to say, in retirement, I suck at retirement. I fill it with EEG reviews. On days that don't have EEG reviews, the time takes forever to go. But if I'm full of EEG reviews, I'm occupied for the whole day, and it seems like, gee, the day just disappeared.
Yeah.
You're blink and it's gone, sort of a day. Pardon me.
Radar says our buddy Dr. Hill did a software demo on his live stream. It's pretty incredible how he used Claude to vibe code neurofeedback software.
That's clever. Stuff. That's creative. That's good. That's a good.
I know El Chatarino, you know, he does a lot of that kind of stuff, and it looks pretty impressive.
For the nerds out there that don't know what vibe coding is, what is that, Joshua?
Oh, I'm not going to be the one to articulate that correctly. That's where you have Ryan El Chatarino on here to talk about that stuff. I believe it's just an AI coding system that's very optimized for coding. But again, like, I'm speaking outside of my scope here.
It's just using plain language to create an app. It's like, AI, create me an app that looks like this, that does this, and you take the output and
you can do that with a lot of AI models, but it's not going to be as good.
Yeah, it's not as good as yeah, there you go. It's slang. But I was going to say, Pete, like, you know, there is a consideration. Anytime I think Jay would say that ACC failure can involve an inability to shift focus. It's not just a distractibility, it's inability to pull yourself off of something. So when I think of that, like, I had a buddy and he had tons of frontal theta, persistent, not the good kind. And he told me a story one time. He was a realtor. He's like, I believe it when they told me that, the clinician told me that, because I mean, just the other day, I spent 7 or 8 hours creating a spreadsheet that just duplicates a function of the MLA listing. And I looked up and it was 7 o'clock and I'd been at the office all day and I really could have been spending that time with my kids or something. And it probably wasn't that helpful. So yeah, that I do anytime it depends if you think it's serving you, I think is probably the ultimate to use anything. And for all of us with our phones and our other technology too.
Yeah. Is it enriching your life or is it just a shortcut? Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Anthony, why don't you read El Charadino?
He's saying vibe is more for letting cursor, which I'm sure is a type of AI or similar, make things without knowing programming fundamentals or much other than making use of text communication with the LLM and letting it go. It works great for something. Sure. Yeah. So it's plain English, creating an app. And hopefully that increases our productivity as a country and stuff and doesn't, you know, maybe mission critical apps are written the old fashioned way, like banking software or something. But
there was a study that came out, I think in the last week. It basically showed that there hasn't been an economic improvement due to AI yet. But what that study kind of detailed, when you look at the fine, detail of it, is that the people are using it to improve their quality of life. They're not using it to become more productive yet. So you haven't seen any large ventures actually succeed yet. Not much to speak of. So we're not seeing some giant breakthrough on some large corporate model. But you are seeing therapists use it to systematize treatment plans and to do their notes. And so you're seeing people basically like have better quality of life, but no economic value yet. So
like the one I always hear is form emails. So like the stuff you got to send out, performance reviews or whatever the most rote email, and the guy, he can get out of it sooner and he's not necessarily producing a lot more economic output, but he's happier. Hopefully.
Yeah. So quality of life is improving, but not productivity yet. That's kind of what we're seeing so far. I think it'll come along, but I think that's true.
There are individuals using it that are individually more productive because of their adeptness with the new tools.
Yes.
Yeah. But they would have been probably the better performers before. This is just a new tool in a better performer's hands. And, that they're not still using Post-it to communicate.
Those of us who used it first were the ones that were engaged in paying attention and looking for those tools. So I think that's true. This comment here. Necessity is the mother of invention, I think, is what Radar's saying.
Radar's saying that they'll start using it during a recession to save on cost. I think people are worried that they're already doing that now. Now, what they're saying is some people think they're using AI as a smokescreen to get rid of people that they figured out they didn't need a long time ago, kind of thing.
No more than the sewing machine was.
Not to any private equity firm.
Well, I used to be a sewing machine mechanic. I started doing that when I was 16, and I did all through college. And I was fascinated with the history of the invention of the sewing machine. It's got a fascinating history.
Continue.
But the arguments against AI were used in the invention of the sewing machine. They're all the same arguments. And we're not going back to hand sewing. We're not doing that. And we're also not going back to doing things with computers the same way either. And here's the funny thing. All the complaints were valid, but we're not going back. So, so it's what it is.
You know, what I've noticed is, at least with my own family, and I've set the expectations with everybody, that if you get something that is digitized from me, it's gone through AI, whether it's a text or an email or whatever. And because my kid will say, you're not very personal to me. I go, well, pick up the phone and call.
There you go.
You want authentic? Pick up the phone and call. And I think we'll get more of that. I hope. Well, either that or we get more of these Best Buy scammers trying to.
Yes. Well, I'll make another prediction, Pete. We will become attracted to imperfect content because our nervous system will attune to it as being authentic and real, and we'll have an aversion to perfection. And that's just
nature. May become the new coin. Like I was even thinking, this is abstract here, but I was even thinking, is the reason why like Alyssa Liu has blown up and gone viral because she seems so authentic, like she seems so natural. But I think in your writing and stuff too, we know the people that are using AI. There is no greater way to turn me off. I've literally had people, I think, in messages like text with me, respond to me with AI. I don't mean like, here is some ideas. I mean like, yes, hello, that sounds great. Oh, whatever.
Insert
like the most
comments here.
Courtesies. Yeah, what'd you say, Pete?
Insert comments here.
Yeah, it's like there's no greater way to reduce your credibility, in my opinion. There's a new acronym that on the internet is as AI:DR, and it means AI didn't read. And somebody said that why should I be bothered to read something that you couldn't be bothered to write?
Yes. Yeah.
Was that Jay?
My spelling errors are going to save me.
Your what are going to save you?
My spelling errors are going to save me. Everybody knows I'm notoriously terrible at writing. But in some ways, that's going to actually make me look more easily identifiable as authentic quicker. And that's going to be a weird advantage that no one ever saw coming.
There was this thing with Gen Z and Instagram like 10 years ago, because I'm in social media marketing, and they liked photos without filters. So Instagram blew up partly because you could put these filters that beautify you. And they were saying Gen Z liked the photos. I don't know if they still do, but where your hair's not kempt and it's the angle's bad and the color is blown out or whatever. And it's even reminding me of, so maybe something happens like that with writing, Josh, or anything else. And then something else is, what was I going to say? Authenticity. Oh, I saw a video a long time ago. They said, if you don't use or ah in your speech, you come off as less authentic. And now that I heard that, I can't deal. There's people, we've all seen them. There's certain politicians, speakers. You can tell they do tons of pauses because they don't want to say. I can tell it's because they're trying. They've trained themselves not to say It's almost like maybe you should train yourself to say it so people like you. I don't know. That's just
so I used to edit out every from all my lectures, and it would take like 2 to 3 hours per hour of lecture. And I started editing out like only 80% of them. And it's because of this. It's literally because of this that I'm realizing like we're going to want some imperfections.
I think that's fair. Like some polish.
As soon as you describe the lack of the and everything, everybody goes
Yeah, and the mirror neurons or something. Yeah. It's like yawning. You know?
That's a good reference.
Joshua, let's sell some tickets. Give me what's your URL?
So QEEGcourses.com. I just finished recording the frontal lobe asymmetries class, and I'll have it uploaded hopefully in the next week. I'm pretty excited about it. It was extremely fun to study. I can't wait to start just doing some live content just for the people who've subscribed, because I'll do those for free periodically. But that class was very enjoyable to learn and study. I was surprised to find how much content there was out there on it. So it's done. I just need to do the video editing and put it on there. So that'll happen probably in about a week. It'll be done.
And then Jay, Radar was asking about your talk on Friday. Tiff Thompson.
Yeah, the School of Neurotherapy, and you have to register or sign in, but it's a free login. You don't have to pay. There's no paywall. So, like most of my advice, my bad advice goes for free. So,
Talk to the
I was
complaint.
actually going to be there, but something came up and I can't make it, so I apologize. I was
It's recorded. It's recorded.
Great.
If you go there, all
Yeah.
of the old talks are still going to be there.
I'll watch
I'm
it.
doing one a month all year. So
Great.
Anthony, your turn.
Well, thanks, guys, and I had a great time today. And yeah, reach us on Brainmaster, Neurofeedback Exchange. There's some good groups on Reddit, and I'm also playing around. I'm playing around with Instagram these days, and also Threads, just for my personal. So if you like getting science content and you use Threads, something I'm opening up again. So we'll see what happens.
And then everybody, the schedule for the Q&As, look in YouTube. You'll see it all there. If you can't make it, just pop in a question. We'll ask it here. And then if we didn't answer your question on Wednesday, Jay and I and whoever shows up on Thursday, we get together and we noodle out talking about all the unanswered things that we didn't get to the night before. Jay Gunkelman, Anthony Ramos, Joshua Moore, have a great night. Happy birthday, Renita. Blow out all those candles. I want that piece.
Cute.
Bye, guys.